As we know, Ireland is a very popular location for artists and craftspeople. I'm not sure whether it's the stunning countryside or the laid-back attitude of the people. There is a Frenchman, his name is Henri Ledoux, and he came here 43 years ago. He settled in Mayo to work as a potter. And our reporter Maria Malarkey has been to visit him to find out why he came here and also what his life has been like in those 43 years.
Terrybaun Pottery in Beaufinon, County Mayo is one of Ireland's oldest potteries. It fired its first kiln in August 1950 and was founded by French couple Gratin and Madeleine Frère. The pottery ran for 33 years under their direction until Madeleine's nephew Henri Ledoux and his Irish-born wife Fiona took it over.
My uncle died in 1983 and subsequently we bought the place in 1985, my wife and I, whom I met on the premises. So it's very much a love story, and 38 years on we're still together. Unfortunately my wife doesn't work with me any longer because she got tired of being overworked and underpaid, or not paid at all. I came from Paris. I was born in Paris but brought up in a suburb of Paris. And my parents collected some beautiful pottery over the years. My father had been a ceramicist in the 50s and unfortunately had to reconvert himself and go into industrial ceramics. But I feel pottery was always there in the background and very much part of my life and in my bloodstream. At the age of 15, I decided to come to Ireland to learn more about pottery and learn the skills from my aunt and uncle, Madeleine and Gratin Frère, who started this little workshop, which gave me the opportunity to learn all the different skills about pottery making. Since we bought the pottery in 1985, my wife and I, Fiona, who also trained here, we had to make some quite important changes. This part of the workshop wasn't here at all, this shop, so we built on to the pottery and we acquired new equipment, and the last 10 or 15 years we even had to change the clay because people wanted stronger colors, more vibrant shapes, and also we had to find new markets in the 90s, early 90s in order to survive. A lot of competition has stepped in the early 80s, 70s and 80s, which wouldn't have been there in the 50s. My uncle was the only one at the start before Stephen Pierces and all those people. And then of course you had a whole influx of new blood like Nicky Moss, Michael Jackson, Michael Kennedy, all those very successful potteries. And despite all that we survived, even though times were quite difficult. I feel pottery making goes back to childhood almost, when children love playing with mud and clay. It's a very tighter material, and to create something out of nothing it's quite fulfilling. And using colours in my work, and I find it very, very exciting, and there's such an array of techniques to discover. Yet I've been making pottery for 45 years and I'm still learning, which is fantastic. Amongst the pieces I make myself here in my gallery, I've also kept some of my uncle and aunt's first pieces. It's like a little museum within my shop, and I think it's very important to keep that story alive and their memory alive as well, because after all, they had great skills which might never be passed on. So I feel it's very, very important to highlight their work, which dates back to the 1950s. Without their presence and their teaching, I probably wouldn't be here now. So I think it's very important to tell this story and to keep it alive.
Even though Henri is responsible for modernising Terrybaun, the traditional techniques that his uncle and aunt would have used are still very much alive, and he has created a successful mixture of old and new. But when you visit Terrybaun, don't be surprised if you see that Henri has swapped his potter's wheel for his tractor as he enjoys his other passion.
When we bought the place in 1985, we also bought a little bit of land because my uncle had great interest in farming and horse breeding. after a couple of years, I thought, well, it would be nice maybe to do something with the land rather than just letting it go to disrepair. So I bought a couple of cows, and from there on I started breeding the cows, and now I have a suckler herd, which I enjoy tremendously because it gets me grounded and it takes me outside and keeps me in touch with nature. And so I have a bit of best of both worlds, sometimes in the workshop and sometimes outside. But it's very healthy and very therapeutic. I love living in the West of Ireland because it gives me a sense of freedom and space. I do not see myself ever living back in France. My wife would like to go to a warmer climate, but I haven't found any place quite as special as Terrybaun or the West of Ireland. It's so rugged, unspoiled yet, and I just love it. Love it.
I think it's great to see Henri carrying on the family tradition and producing beautiful pieces at Terrybaun Pottery in County Mayo.